All right, today we're going deep. We're talking about a cosmology built on a really terrifying idea, that the most primal, raw instincts of the universe, they never actually die. So let's jump right in and explore this foundational mythology.
So, right off the bat, forget everything you think you know about creation myths. This universe wasn't spoken into being. It was howled. This one line just sets the whole stage for a world born from pure divine instinct, a place where, the spirit is just completely consumed by the gut.
Here's our game plan. We're going to start with that primal scream of creation. Then we'll unpack the inescapable law that it spawned. After that, we'll witness the cosmic conflict it created, meet the one hero who found a way to transcend it, and finally, we'll get a glimpse of the terrifying synthesis of what's still to come.
To really get what happens later in this story, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. And I'm not just talking about some historical event. No, this is more like a perpetual, metaphysical scar that just bleeds through every single age that follows.
The first world was just pure impulse. There was no concept of good or evil, no right or wrong. There was only the raw, animalistic cry that shaped all of reality through sheer, brutal force. This was not a world of gods and mortals. It was a world of predators and prey, but on an absolutely cosmic scale.
And this quote right here, it gives us such a crucial insight. The beings from this era, they weren't gods who sat around creating laws. They were the law. Their hunger, their cruelty, their violence, these things were the living, breathing challenges that formed the brutal bedrock for all future philosophy and all future conflict.
So, meet the players. And again, these aren't characters with complex motivations. They are living, breathing embodiments of primal drives. You've got Dracula Prime, basically a being of pure thirst, the wolf god, an avatar of cosmic violence. These weren't just monsters, they were the architects of a monstrous reality.
But here's the thing. The chaos of that first world, it didn't just go away. It left behind a wound, a fundamental rule that governs this entire cosmology from that point on.
The law is devastatingly simple. You cannot fight the abyss without getting some of it on you. And this isn't a rule you can choose to follow or break. It is an inescapable consequence of existence. Every single hero who dares to confront chaos risks becoming its next vessel.
And this just lays out the cycle perfectly. It's a trap, right? A hero rises to fight the monster, but in that very struggle, they absorb the chaos they were trying to conquer. It's a perpetual cycle of monstrous divinity, and it ensures that the primal cry is never, ever silenced.
So this core law, this cosmic infection, it gives rise to the central conflict of the entire cosmos. And it's not a simple battle of good versus evil, not even close. It's a philosophical deadlock, a totally unacceptable choice between two equally horrific ways to be erased.
I mean, really, think about that for a second. Which would you pick? Would you rather live in a universe that has zero freedom or a universe that has zero truth? A perfectly ordered, sterile cage or a reality with no foundation at all? That's the question at the very heart of this saga.
On one side, you have real Dox. He literally wants to turn all of existence into a single, perfect, and completely lifeless equation. And on the other side, you've got the Continuist, a being that wants to drown reality in an infinite pulp of contradictory, utterly meaningless stories.
Okay, let's break this down because the contrast is just wild. Vrildox's whole method is subtractive purification. He sees things like free will, emotion, choice as systemic flaws that need to be deleted. The Continuist is his total opposite. He uses additive corrosion. He doesn't destroy anything, he just buries it under 1,000 contradictory histories until it loses all meaning. It is literally a choice between a sterile prison and a sensational madhouse.
So you're faced with this impossible choice. But what if you don't have to choose? What if there's a third path? There is one character who finds a way to break free by transcending the very terms of the conflict itself.
And this is where Vampirella enters the picture. Her backstory is a complete mess of contradictory origins. One day she's an alien, the next she's the daughter of a demon. But instead of this being a creative flaw in her character, it actually becomes the key to her power. She stops trying to find the one true story.
And this was her crisis. You can feel the pain in it. Her mother, Lilith, created this confusion on purpose, leaving her in a state of deep existential nausea. She had no idea who she really was, only what she'd been told she was, and the stories kept changing.
So how did she break free? It all comes down to that third step, Dionysian affirmation. It's this moment where she realizes that the narrative chaos, the manipulation itself, was the truth of her existence. She embraces every glorious, messy, contradictory part of her past, and in doing that, she becomes self-begotten, the one and only author of her own being.
And this act of self-creation, it gives her incredible power. She literally becomes immune to retcons because her identity isn't based on one single fragile history anymore. But more than that, she can actually attack an enemy's narrative, their very concept of self, and assert her reality over theirs. It's insane.
And this all culminates in her ultimate triumph. She stands before the forces of absolute order and absolute chaos and just rejects their false choice. She declares her own existence on her own terms. The play is hers now. She is the author.
But the story doesn't end with her victory. That would be too neat. The cosmos keeps evolving, and it's heading towards a new, terrifying synthesis where the conflict doesn't end. It fuses into something else entirely.
So, what happens when the two extremes stop fighting and are instead forced together? Welcome to the fifth world. Here, the raw, instinctual cry of that first world isn't defeated by order. No, it's refined, weaponized, and perfected by it. The cry becomes a conscious, directed will.
And the herald of this terrifying new age is the Blood Sun. He's a fifth-world weapon system, the living embodiment of this paradox. A creature designed for total, absolute control, but built from the essence of total, absolute chaos.
I mean, just look at how nuts this is. His genetic source code comes from Dracula Prime, a being of pure primal hunger from the literal dawn of time. But he was forged and engineered by the fascist anti-life order of Apocalypse, a world completely dedicated to stamping out free will.
And that leaves us with this one final, chilling question. When that mindless, instinctual cry is given the focused, calculating purpose of absolute tyranny, what new kind of monster is unleashed upon the universe? What happens when the teeth finally learn how to think?